friends of the criminal because you're going to testify in court, you will generally not get a permit to carry a handgun for lawful protection. But on the other hand, if you're Mr. Big Shot campaign contributor, celebrity, something like that, you get the permit with no problem.
What laws are likely to fall now? I know that San Francisco, you just mentioned the ban in public housing. There's also a terrible handgun ban in Chicago. There have already been suits filed after Heller to challenge these, correct?
Chicago and 5 of its suburbs have this handgun ban. One of the cities, those suburbs, which was sued, Morton Grove, has already said it's going to repeal its handgun ban. They've already put the bill forward to do that, and it's moving through the city council there. Wilmette, another one of the suburbs with a handgun ban, has announced that it's suspending enforcement of the ban. So these cases will eventually lead, I hope, to the resolution of whether the Second Amendment is enforceable against state and local governments or not.
How large of a blow is this to the anti-gun campaigns? To Brady, Million Mile March, all the rest? Is this something that's going to fuel them, do you think, or is this something that, in the end, will make their work rather irrelevant?
I think there's sort of 2 ways to spin it. And you gave a good presentation of how the Brady campaign's been presenting it as, oh, it actually makes things easier for us because this eliminates the theory of getting to the end of the slippery slope of total gun confiscation. And by the way, the Brady campaign as a national organization is part of an international organization called IANSA, International Action Network on Small Arms, which is a global gun prohibition consortium. And they've been very effective in their work at the United Nations and in lots of countries around the world. They want complete bans on all handguns, outlawing any rifle that can shoot over 100 meters, and a prohibition on the possession of any firearm for self-defense. And they also, and they've been successful at getting the United Nations to endorse this point of view legally, that any law which says you can use a firearm for self-defense in a non-lethal situation, like somebody's trying to burn down your house or rape you, that's a human rights violation for the government to allow people to use a firearm against a rapist.
But bringing it back here, does this help the anti-gunnies? Does this hurt the anti-gunnies? Is this Roe versus Wade to either one of these sides?
Well, Roe versus Wade, of course, helped both sides in terms of their organizational behavior and getting more members and all that. I think one of the challenges the gun control groups will face, and some more than others, for example, the Violence Policy Center, the Coalition to Stop Gun Violence, they've always made handgun prohibition a formal centerpiece of what they want. The Brady campaign hasn't been saying that since the late 1970s. It's never repudiated that statement by one of its founders, but it's never also put it on its active agenda, at least. So the more out there prohibitionist groups will face more trouble. But I think there's the other question is how many of the people who are actually members of these organizations, and it probably varies, but some of them aren't really joining because they want to ban so-called attack weapons or have extra restrictions on gun shows. They're for those as a stepping stone towards prohibition, and now they'll never get there.
Let's bring it over here. As you're looking at this, and from your perspective, working with the Brady campaign, is this a good decision for you as a movement? Is this something? How are you going to turn this into a plus? And do you think this is going to bring more numbers, more money, more attention to the anti-gun side?
I never got into that part of social work, where you talk about the macro portion of it. I'm more of a micro person where I talk about the individual people. And I have not heard Brady comment on whether it's going to help our movement as such or not. My personal feeling, and I'm, again, being careful that I differentiate, is that I think that it's going to make some people so angry that they will join our movement. And it's going to make some people so happy that they will join the movement that you're affiliated with, or movements, I don't know. I would ask you, please not to refer to anti-gunnies. That makes us sound irrelevant and silly, and we're not.
I consider myself a pro-gunny, so no disrespect intended.
It did strike me as kind of patronizing. Words are important, and I just wanted to make sure that we were on the same
I'll just call myself a pro-gunny, and
okay, well, that'll sort of help.
All right.
I do have a question, and I really don't, this is not a loaded question, because I think I know the answer, but I'm not sure. Of the 80 average per day deaths that I cited from guns, do you have any idea how many of those were from someone using a gun to protect themselves?
Well, that depends a lot on whose statistics you use.
Okay.
But here's the key point on protection is, when you talk about using a gun for protection, your objective isn't to kill somebody. Your objective is to stop the crime. So what we know is, and this is in the brief that I wrote for all the law enforcement organizations, is the social science research shows that in this country, guns are used for protection, and people will, different social scientists will give you different answers.
Sure.
Some will say as many as 2.5 million times a year. Others would say several 100,000 times a year. That's sort of the range of where the plausible estimates are. And of those, only a quarter involve the defensive gun uses even involve a gun being fired. Let alone hitting the guy, let alone killing him. So it's a very small fraction of defensive gun uses which lead to a fatality, and I think that's fine. I'd rather have the crime be stopped and both people be alive. We know from the Centers for Disease Control did a study of self-defense against burglary in the United States and found out about 500 to 600,000 times per year guns are used. And again, that doesn't mean being fired, but brought out.
Brandished or whatever.
Exactly, in defense against home invasion burglaries. And a lot of if you look at other countries, say Canada, Ireland, the United Kingdom, Netherlands, where they're much more restrictive about people being able to own defensive guns in their home, more or less prohibiting it, they have a very high rate of home invasion burglaries. Half or more of their burglaries take place when the victims are home. And fortunately, in the United States, it's only about 12 or 13%. So that because, as all the studies of American burglars say, you don't want to break in when somebody's home because you could get shot.
Or you could have a dog bite you. I mean, a dog is supposed to be more of a deterrent than a gun. So
well,
let's get real about that.
I think that depends on the dog.
And it also depends on how high the burglar is.
Just hasn't been kicking out the bad guys like it is.
I do have, yes, thank you.
We've only got a few minutes left, so let's bring it over here.
I do have a point that I wish to make that's very important to me. I taught school 1 block from here, not a couple of years ago. I teach elementary, middle school kids. I've worked with kids who have shot people. I have worked with kids who have been shot. This is a very personal, people-oriented issue to me. When we talk about the laws in the United States and all that, I can talk about them, but this is where I come from. In the last few years, handguns have caused a young lady at 33rd and Curtis to be shot. And I want to take another phrase out of the English language, which is she was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
We've only got a few seconds left, so we need to wrap this up.
She, a man named Rodney, my friend Ann's daughter, a young man in Omaha who was shot through the face from a bullet 3 blocks away, were all in the right place at the right time. Someone else shot them, and no handgun, no defensive weapon on earth would have stopped that because they just were. And in the one battle
we're going to have to leave that discussion where it is.
Are
Pat,
you sure?
I am absolutely sure.
All right,
I appreciate
if you're
you
sure.
being. David, thank you. For more information, go to the Independence Institute webpage, independenceinstitute.org. Tell a friend. We'll see you next week.
And Million Mom March.
You jab a jab, bamboozle, milk and noozle, bippity bop, she called. You jab a jab, bamboozle, milk and noozle, bippity bop, she called. I mean, you keep on talking, but you don't know where to turn it off.